The world's largest asset manager is almost teaming up with the world's largest bank to now move into the Bitcoin space because they have figured out that they cannot control the gold and the silver markets. As we're seeing the gold and silver prices skyrocket in flight and absolutely take off. So, why are they moving into the Bitcoin space? And how is this connected with Coinbase, the world's largest Bitcoin slash crypto exchange? We're going to get into all of that. But first, we need to talk about what the hell is going on in the silver markets as we are seeing silver literally go parabolic, something that I didn't think we would see during my lifetime, to be honest. But silver lease rates are literally going through a short squeeze. Now, everybody always says with the Bitcoin space and the hard assets that there is this potential for the quote unquote short squeeze. But everybody on this comments and everything else is always calling me a moon boy. There will never be a short squeeze. I'm always projecting things way too high. Well, for the silver and gold markets, where they have openly admitted, one, manipulating the gold price, two, issuing fake gold, and three, storing fake gold, well, it's pretty interesting that we are seeing such a parabolic rise in this because this has surpassed the 1980s short squeeze where we reached $52.50 an ounce, and it's literally 100% annualized. And if you look at that, that is literally a straight up and down line. And it doesn't just stop there. It's also happening in the gold market where we're seeing gold ETFs attract 2.1 billion in net flow. Now, this follows the record of 5.3 billion posted within this past week. So for those of you guys who have come into this channel, know that I've been talking about the debasement trade. And this is what is the brand new craze of the traditional financial world. They're calling it the debasement trade, which includes all hard assets, hard metals such as silver and gold, but they're looping Bitcoin in there. And I think it's very interesting that they're lumping Bitcoin in with these shiny rocks because they've been so anti-Bitcoin for so long, including JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon. We'll get into him in a minute, but they've been so anti-Bitcoin for so long that now they're trying to, I would say, sneak in Bitcoin into their asset portfolios by labeling it as the debasement trade. Now, with this, right, we're seeing even more inflows go in, and we're seeing gold just absolutely take off. But I think the interesting thing is now how these banks are talking about Bitcoin. Here's the $4 trillion giant JP Morgan, as I mentioned, and many of you guys know, has been very anti-Bitcoin. Now, let's hear what they're saying about it.
I don't think that's in the near-term horizon for us. I think Jamie was pretty clear at Investor Day that we're going to be involved in the trading of that, but custody isn't on the table at the moment. There's a lot of questions around our own risk appetite of how far we want to go down that path from trading and other sides of it, and then custody, I guess, would follow. But naturally, we need custodians, so we're exploring what the right custodians for us for the business footprint that will grow.
So what is interesting about what they said here is that they are going to begin trading, but they don't want a custody, which is the general, let's call it, duty of a bank. They usually want to custody your funds. They want to have your bank account so they can divvy things around. But they found it very interesting that, hey, we don't want to have that custodial risk. But what we do want is for you to trade back and forth. And for what I think is very interesting is that Coinbase, the world's largest exchange, has always encouraged you to trade, and now they're trying to act as a bank. And then what did Larry Fink also say about these Bitcoin ETFs? Because they are looking at Bitcoin ETFs as a vehicle and trying to add more Bitcoin products and to allow their clients to have access to this asset. Now let's listen in to Uncle Larry and what he has to say about this funny internet money that we all know, and love.
Our Bitcoin IBIT is now over $100 billion.
$100 billion, I know,
so
from nothing not that long ago.
And 2 years ago, zero.
Yeah,
so
I know. Well, you weren't always a huge proponent of crypto, as we know.
Yeah, but
love it now.
But I grow and learn.
I heard you say that on 60 Minutes.
I did say that.
So he even admitted here, hey, I wasn't always the hugest proponent of quote unquote crypto, but he's quote grown and learned to love Bitcoin and crypto. Now, as you're seeing, it's literally the fastest meteoric rise of literally any single ETF that is out there. It makes you think, why is he doing that? And as JP Morgan is pointing out, they don't want to be custodians, and so neither does BlackRock. So it's all very intertwined here because these guys were so anti-Bitcoin for so long, and now they're just saying, hey, this is all peaches and daisies here, folks. Make sure you guys are hitting that like button for me. But it's interesting because of just where we've seen this gold market go, because as many of you guys in this chat are talking about, JP Morgan has manipulated gold and admitted to manipulating other precious metal markets through a scheme known as spoofing. In September 2020, this is just when they were caught, and they paid a record fine of $920 million. Now, if they paid this fine and they just said fine, and they are literally at the top of the food chain when it still comes to the bank, it makes you think that they made a whole hell of a lot more on this $920 million fine and by manipulating the gold and silver markets than this $920 million. It was pennies to them, but it seems like a big amount on paper. So they continue to run this Ponzi. Now, here is the archive of all this, because the former JP Morgan precious metals traders was sentenced to prison here because they were manipulating the gold and silver markets, and they thought at one point in time they were untouchable. They didn't need to have Bitcoin because, hey, we've got a manipulated market that everybody wants, and we can keep doing that, right? So if these precious metals traders continue to sell and people continue to still buy, well, they can manipulate whatever they want. And they did that very thing. In fact, JP Morgan got found that they had counterfeit gold, and they were still able to sell this to consumers. Hey, buy this gold. Now, why would you do that if, looking at it, you're seeing the massive amounts of manipulation going on? It makes you think, wonder, what the hell is going on, and why am I looking at these gold markets as they are continuing to get manipulated with all this? And as you guys remember, we've seen a lot of craziness from Jamie Dimon of what he's been talking about when it comes to Bitcoin. I mean, we've seen him now allow his clients to buy Bitcoin, and that was probably one of the biggest Bitcoin backflips we've seen. And with this, like previously, he said they'll be able to buy Bitcoins, but he has his long-term skepticism on crypto. This move allows JP Morgan to move alongside other banks such as Morgan Stanley, and they'll have other access to it. But Jamie Dimon has always been, hey, I just want to focus on stable coins now. And he wanted JP Morgan to develop their own. But he's called Bitcoin a fraud. He said that there's no utility for it. And he says, I've been a believer in stable coins and blockchains, but it's not for Bitcoin, right? He doesn't think that Bitcoin is the way. And it's really interesting when you look at it because they're saying, oh, it's all because of this Genius Act. Now, JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon has called Bitcoin rat poison. He's gone on and said, hey, you know what? Bitcoin is not the way. It's only used for money laundering, and I'm on YouTube, so I can't say the full extent, but trafficking people. So he's come out and been extremely negative when it comes to this Bitcoin space. And yet now his bank is talking about, okay, we're going to allow people to trade. And this is the first avenue that we really want to explore. It's not custody. It's not, hey, we're going to let these ETFs, we're going to let you borrow against it, because that's just what they've started doing. But it's more, we want to focus on the trading so we can make money on this spread, because they know that the demand is there. So it is very interesting when we look at how Jamie Dimon has looked at this overall shift. And at first, they were all about gold, silver, and all of these other precious metals. But now they are starting to move and shift the narrative. As we are seeing this narrative shift in Wall Street, they're saying, hey, why don't we just see how everybody knows and loves gold and silver? Oh, it's so easy to understand. Well, we are going to shift in Bitcoin just little by little, because we are losing control of these gold and silver markets, because these borrowing costs have just gotten absolutely insane. So if we loop in Bitcoin, this is where the old wall of worry is now the new debasement trade. So now they're moving into gold and Bitcoins as they are surging in those record highs. And it's accelerated investments into quote unquote hard assets. So I think that this is interesting because they're looking at Bitcoin now and characterizing it as a hard asset. But previously, it was only used for big time negative things. Anytime JB Dimon brought up Bitcoin, it was negative. He would get on national television and just tell you all the worst things about Bitcoin. But now they're looking at it and combining the two. Now, this has always been a case of watch what they do, not what they say, because if you take a step back and look at this chart that you guys know I love to show, make sure you guys are subscribed if you haven't seen this chart before, or if you've seen it and you just haven't subscribed yet, because we've seen Jamie Dimon and JP Morgan absolutely ape into MSTR. Now, I hate using that term, but if you look at how parabolic the investment has been, it's been absolutely insane. And this is because Jamie Dimon knows that MSTR is giving you access to the Bitcoin market in a unique fashion that many have not really been able to grasp. And, if you listen to some of these other banks, well, like Wells Fargo's CEO, they've seen the rise of companies holding Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And something that they say is the most underappreciated story of 2025 is MSTR's effort to tap into the $300 trillion global bond market. And what else has Jamie Dimon said? He said that it's, quote, going to happen. There's a crack in the bond market, and the bond market is going to collapse. So Jamie Dimon, he is no dummy. Look, even though we want to all rip on his opinions on Bitcoin, which I am here to do so, but these guys are fiat maximalists. They want to make as much money as possible off of you. And so what are they doing? They're offering trading so they can make money on every single spread. Every time you buy, 1% here, 1% here. Oh, we offer the best rates, 0.5%. They're going to do these little tactics to draw you in and make it more friendly for you. And then they're going to say, hey, you know what? If you want, we're going to offer our friends over at BlackRock. They have a great ETF where you can borrow against it. And it's the fastest growing ETF. But BlackRock, they don't want to take custodian either, because it's all essentially circling around on these guys who are just holding massive amounts of Bitcoin and potentially paper Bitcoin, because these billionaires buying up BlackRock's ETF, these billionaires are saying, oh, let's continue to buy these Bitcoin ETFs because we've already got our shiny metals. So we'll dump these shiny metals as, there's a lot of unknowing or not knowing around this. We're not sure how much this could go up. We see gold going up 3 to 4 times larger than the S&P 500 this year. But it doesn't quite have the upside as these Bitcoin ETFs. And these hedge fund managers, we're going to get into more of them, but they're seeing what this big gain is going, right? They're seeing Michael Saylor come and say that Bitcoin will be a true $200 trillion asset. Now, you got to ask yourself, if it's going to be a $200 trillion asset, do I want to sell my Bitcoin? I don't know about you guys, but the answer for me is no. I want to hold on to as much Bitcoin as possible. So if I want to unlock some of my liquidity during this bull run, I'm trusting Salt Lending over at saltlending.com/green-candle, or the link down in the show notes below, because they've got a Salt Shield, a no liquidation solution where you can literally go to this website, unlock your purchasing power with Salt, and you don't have to worry about any liquidation risk. They have some of the best rates in the industry at 8.95%. They've got a duration of 12 months and borrow up to 70% LTV. All those numbers are some of the most competitive in the industry, and they're giving you guys an exclusive offer for Green Candle listeners. All you got to do is go over to saltlending.com/green-candle today, because they got to know that you guys are all candies, baby. You guys are all Green Candle supporters. So as we were going back and looking at Jamie Dimon, his personal opinion, he called it worthless and a fraud in 2017, a pet rock at the Economic Forum in 2024, a decentralized Ponzi scheme as recently as this year. Wow, that was this month. He called it a decentralized Ponzi scheme. And then he's also said it's only used for illegal activity. And now, he has his guys, head of trading, head of markets, confirming the bank will begin buying and trading. So it's really interesting. And like I said, it's one of those things where you got to watch what they do, not what they say, because, the amount of assets under management here for the Bitcoin ETFs, it's on the cusp of 100 billion in assets, a milestone it would have achieved in less than 2 years. While the S&P 500 or VOO might be the largest in the world, it's the fastest growing, the IBET ETF. And it now holds nearly 1 million Bitcoin, over 800,000. So if I had to guess, it's going to get pretty close to 1 million by the end of the year, but it's definitely going to hit 1 million by the end of next year. I would imagine probably around summertime. So it took over 2009 days to hit the same milestone the Bitcoin ETF did. Look at the difference in this. 100 billion assets. It's been absolutely insane. And now BlackRock is also offering products to give you yield. So they're bringing in some of these TradFi topics to try to entice you. So this is where I think that everybody in the Bitcoin space was initially saying, now they fight us. We get so big, they're going to fight us. I think that in the Bitcoin space, we've been getting too comfortable. I think that everybody's been thinking, oh, you know what? BlackRock's here. Uncle Larry, he's going to help us. The president of the United States is here. All of these big players with a lot of influence, they love Bitcoin. They'll never do anything to hurt it, right? No, not so fast. Not on my watch, folks. I'm going to keep you candies heavily involved and heavily aware of what I believe is going on. Because if you really take a step out and look at all of the timeline of events, right? Why is Larry Fink so quote unquote bullish on Bitcoin now? Because as All Nighter Hider is saying, in this chat, right? It's so hilarious that they're saying, oh, grow and learn, right? But if BTC is for drug dealers, then JP Morgan's trying to become a professional one, right? So it's very interesting as we're going through this forensics happy hour that it's taking a step back, and Bitcoin in cold storage is essentially the only way, because these BlackRock ETFs, they're chasing yield, and they're not even using themselves as custodians. As you guys know, they use Coinbase, right? And what did BlackRock just coincidentally do here recently? They deposited a lot of Ethereum and Bitcoin onto Coinbase Prime, who allegedly was their own custodian here. So look, I'm lining out a timeline of events. Do with that information what you will. But why, at a time like this, when we see massive amounts of buying coming in, why this little wrinkle that BlackRock is now depositing Bitcoin and Ethereum to Coinbase Prime? Is it because Coinbase doesn't have that liquidity when Coinbase is literally supposed to be the custodial provider for the BlackRock ETF? It really makes you wonder what the hell these guys are doing and why they're all intertwined here. Because we have Jamie Dimon, who presumably is probably working with Coinbase Prime on their trading desks. Then we have BlackRock, who is having their ETF custodied by Coinbase in this ETF. And then now we have BlackRock now depositing $364 million with this. And I think it's very interesting of this timing, because we also saw, for those of you guys who saw yesterday, a very unique timing with the United States government, because we have a lot going on here in the United States government when it pertains to Bitcoin. They have recently moved 667.6 Bitcoin to a new wallet. So you got to ask yourself, why are they moving their Bitcoin to a new wallet right now? Are they looking to sell? Are they looking to get out of Bitcoin? Why now? All the while, they're set to seek a forfeiture of 127,271 Bitcoin tied in this pig butchering scam. So the United States is looking to add and capture more Bitcoin for their strategic reserve, yet they do not want to buy Bitcoin. They've been looking for quote unquote budget neutral ways. So it really makes you think when you're looking at the amount of Bitcoin in governments. The United States now allegedly already sees that and now doubles up its holdings at 325,000 Bitcoin. So it's really interesting, this timing of everything. And we see, hey, China was only about 8,000 Bitcoin behind before this recent forfeiture or seizure of Bitcoin that we've received. That now we're starting to see some hairiness go on. Look, there's been massive amounts of market manipulation before. But we saw a trader the other day, as many of you know, open up a wallet right before a Trump tweet. And then after that Trump tweet, we saw that trader make nearly $200 million in like an hour. So as we have more of these banks start to come on, such as Citibank or some of these other giants, you got to ask yourself, when the biggest liquidation event of 19 billion happened the other day and Bitcoin fell, but not by much, let's say not by much here, folks, and we now have gold literally hitting all-time highs, why is TradFi moving over into the Bitcoin space and doing it at such a rapid pace? I believe it's because they think they've lost control of those gold markets. I believe it's because these traditional financial bros have realized that if they can't beat them, join them. They need to figure out ways in order to control the Bitcoin space. So what do you do to control that space? Well, you get in with the president, who is a quote unquote crypto president. You understand when he's about to, let's say, you understand when he's about to issue a tweet or do some sort of tariff negotiation or something like that. And then you short it and you capitalize. And that trader who did all that, that short is now worth $208 million. Now, obviously, we saw that dump in the Bitcoin space here the other day. I mean, you could see it here. The biggest liquidation event happened over the weekend. But, I mean, with the biggest liquidation event, Bitcoin's still only down 9.29%. So it's really not doing that bad. And to avoid any issues with the price volatility, if you think that, hey, I don't know what the hell is going on, well, this is where I think cold storage Bitcoin is the best. I think the best options are Trezor. You can go to trezor.io or the affiliate link down below. Please actually go to the affiliate link down below. That will help you boy out some more. And you can go here. I like the Trezor Safe 5, the Bitcoin only edition. You can use the promo code GreenCandle5. Do that today. If you use the promo code GreenCandle5, you will get 5% off your entire order. And it'll let them know that I sent you, because Green Candle 5 will get you 5% off. And it's really not that bad, folks. If you really take a step out and look at how expensive these things are. Look, man, if you go to a traditional bank account, a lot of them, you're not going to be able to access your money. 1, 2, it costs a lot more money. And 3, those banking fees and everything like that, they're just eating you alive. If you want to hold the hardest asset on the planet, one that actually appreciates over inflation, well, go to trezor.io or the affiliate link. And then even if you don't have a Trezor, if you have something, it's not enough. You need to be holding your Bitcoin seed phrase properly backed up. So in order to do that, go to cryptosteel.com/greencandle today. And you could use promo code GreenCandle for 10% off your entire order. They've got everything, right? They've got some of the best metal backups. And the great thing about this is you don't need a hammer. And on top of it, they have seals that they sell to you. Every other hardware plate requires you to punch it in there with maybe a hammer or some other tool. Then on top of it, you don't know if somebody has looked at your seed phrase. You have to just store it away. Here, if you have the crypto steel and you have it with the tamper seals on there, you'll know if somebody has accessed your seed phrase. So do it quickly because we are seeing a lot of craziness go on in this market. I mean, we're seeing entities start to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet at an all-time rate. We have 205 entities right now publicly traded, with 19 coming in the past 30 days, as that number is quote unquote skyrocketing in flight. And then we saw your boy Michael Saylor buying Bitcoin in every quarter since Q3 of 2020, and that is going up. And Larry Fink, these guys, there's just keeps on saying some of the most bullish things that you could see, literally telling people, hey, Larry Fink says it's more than a $4.5 trillion held in Bitcoin and crypto. It's a $2.5 trillion market as it stands literally today. So he thinks that this is going to more than double, right? As TF8280 is saying, if you own gold, you will have to have an expensive safe. Holding assets only comes with security and responsibility. Exactly. But I think the crazy thing of all of this is that, hey, look, if you have gold, you're going to need to get it verified, right? If you really take a step out and look at Bitcoin, you can go and check your wallet on the blockchain right now and see if the Bitcoin is actually there. Now, if JP Morgan, the world's largest bank, got duped by some fake gold, what makes you think that you won't? It's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. And yeah, every single time that Bitcoin runs up or crashes, Coinbase freezes. Coinbase doesn't allow you to remove. And they just say, oh, it's just because so many people are bum rushing it. It literally happens every single time. You're the world's largest exchange. Figure it out at this point. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous how these guys keep getting away with this. And we keep letting people continue to go through this, right? So, as we see the potential of more interest rates coming, we're going to see Bitcoin's price potentially skyrocket in flight. Make sure you guys are subscribed. I've got a great podcast here coming out probably tomorrow or the next day with a guest that everybody knows and loves. So make sure you guys are subscribed, telling a friend to tell a friend, and I'll catch you guys all at the next one.